Thanks, Wayne and Kevin, for inviting me. I'm very pleased to be here. This topic, I think, is extremely important, and I'm excited about what these new tools offer, because I'm very committed to trying to address the challenges that many organizations face when they try to manage the quality of their data. As Kevin mentioned, I have written several books. Two of them are directly on data quality management. One came out in February, and then I was the production editor of the data management body of knowledge, DAMA's second edition of that. And I wrote a book to follow up that called Navigating the Labyrinth, which is an executive guide to data management and kind of boils down the DMBOK in ways that for non-technical people and for people who don't have time to read 600 pages, helps people understand what data management writ large involves. So let's go to the next slide. So I want to take some of the remarks that Kevin has shared so far, particularly about the fact that, data quality problems have been around for a long time, and that now they're coming faster and thicker and with more implications for organizations. I want to take that as my starting point and talk a little bit about why it is challenging to manage the quality of data, and then I want to talk about how these tools fit in. So when I talk about data quality management, I like to use this idea of the 5 challenges. And we're all familiar with numbers 2, 3, and 4, people, process, and technology. But sometimes we don't think about the other sides of the shape. The first is data itself. That data is, as Tom Redmond calls it, slippery. It informs you about the business. It really ties your business together, but it does that because it's encoding meaning, and in encoding that meaning, you need people who can interpret it and use it to get value from it. And when we think about that, we realize that people work within a culture, and so the culture itself has to support the use of the building of knowledge around data, and also it has to support the investment in actually understanding the data well enough to get that value from it. So we think about these 5 things: data, people, process, technology, and culture, and all of them should be working in sync with each other if an organization is going to get as much value as possible from its data. If the people in that organization are going to be able to use the data to meet organizational needs and to act on opportunities. So a lot of focus in many organizations is on the technology part, but if you don't have the people and the processes to support that, then you don't get the value that you need. So when I started reading about these data observability tools, and I really just learned this term about 18 or 24 months ago. And at first I thought, how is that different? And when I looked into them, I could see that what I liked about them is they present this comprehensive view. They recognize that data quality is not just about the population of individual columns or the execution of business rules. It's really about how data moves through the organization and where it can get used. And I also really like the fact that these tools are drawing not only on machine learning and artificial intelligence, those are the buzzwords, but they're using a lot of the principles of statistical process control. And I believe firmly in those principles as ways of detecting anomalies and keeping a better eye on data than you can get from just looking at rules. But the problem, as Kevin alluded to, is that the tools themselves aren't going to solve the problem. You really need people with skills and knowledge, and you have to plan for the success of these tools. And so some of the things that Kevin just mentioned about the success factors, having a strategy, having goals, those are really going to be most critical to success in getting value from these tools. So if you could go to the next slide. So I want to kind of flesh out a bit more about what that looks like. You need to know not only what the tools are and what they do, but in fact, people have to understand the data itself. And they have to understand the methodology behind the tools, what it means to detect anomalies, and then what to do with issues when they emerge. So you have to have a plan to act on things. Now, some of the work of the tools will do cleanup and those kinds of things, but not everything can be resolved the first time. And if you want to teach the tools how to fix problems for you, then you need to be teaching them. So you need to really think through, how are we going to respond? What do we know about our data? What are the risks? And how can we make the most of the information that the tools provide? Next slide. If you have really smart people and they know what they're doing and they understand the data, that is great, but they also need to be empowered to actually make those decisions. And that's where the culture question comes in. So organizations that really want to make the most of their data and get value from their data need to also trust their people, and they need to fund how that data will be improved. And that's why it's important, as you adopt these tools and work with them, that you have clear governance over how you will use the findings, who will make decisions. Are you prepared, if you find things in your data, to actually make the changes that you need to improve the data? And that really comes down to establishing accountabilities, which is what governance aims at writ large. The last two slides, and I'll talk to the next one. The last two are about applying data quality methodologies to the use of these tools. And I'm gonna focus on this one just for a few moments, because it's a slide I've used for a long time that really talks about the risks associated with data and the concept of data as the product from a process. And as Kevin's slides pointed out, when we're talking about data observability, we want to talk about not only the content of the data, but also the steps through which data is delivered. This is a very simple diagram. It talks about the fact that things can go wrong at every step, but it also emphasizes the idea that, yes, you really do need to know not only your data content, but your pipeline. And you need to know it well enough so that you can then put controls in place. You can actually learn from the things that have gone wrong with your pipeline, and you can put controls in place at the right points to prevent things from going wrong. Particularly, with the creation of data, but also as you move data throughout the organization. Because one of the things that is very true about our current state is we not only have more data in different forms, but we want to use it in so many different ways. It's never going to all fit together right from the start. You have to do the work to bring it together, and that work involves risk. So I think the foundational ideas around data quality management, managing data as a product, understanding your customers, your data consumers, and their needs, those remain in our current state of big data. The data observability tools provide the means through which we can actually act on those now that we have these larger volumes and more complicated forms of data. So I'll leave it at that, Kevin. The next slide, again, as I said, is just kind of a summary of various ways of thinking about data quality, but I'll hand back to you.